Thank you, Shreyas, and wonderful to be here. And it's very interesting to talk after everybody has spoken about everything. So my talk can be redundant, but well, I'll still try to make justice. So how do I treat my keratoconus? Based on this kind of nomogram, where I decide based on whether the cone is centered, decentered, or it's very advanced cone. I also look at whether the cone is stable or it's progressive. So if it is progressive, you have to stop the progression by doing cross-linking. And if it's stable, you have to think of the next step. Now, whatever you do, your final goal has to be visual rehabilitation. And that's very important treating any keratoconus, that we should remember that finally we want to improve the vision of the patient. Now, if it's an advanced cone, I would do a contact lens trial. And if the contact lens fits well, and if we think that patient has decent corneal thickness for cross-linking, we'll go ahead and do cross-linking. If it is not thick enough for the cross-linking, well, we can manage the patient till patient is happy with the contact lens, and later on think of DAL, PKP, whatever. If the contact lens does not fit very well, then directly we should think of doing DAL. Now, why this is important? Well, if you do not do a contact lens trial, and if you do a whatever method of cross-linking and try to avoid frying endothelium and claim that it works, but after that, if you can't do visual rehabilitation, there's no point of doing this thing. So that's very important to do a trial first. One such case had come to me, a young girl for the keratoconus treatment. We planned cross-linking based on the corneal thickness available. We thought we'll be able to manage, but when we look at the corneal thickness, it was 384, which is still manageable. But when we did AIOCT, we realized the corneal epithelium was hypertrophic in that region, and which happens in very advanced cone where you have dense Vogue stria. So please, in such kind of cases, do an AIOCT. Measure the true stromal thickness available with you, and then decide whether you want to do a cross-linking or not. With such a low corneal thickness of stroma, well, I thought that we better do a DAL. But when we did a contact lens trial, with the contact lens, her vision improved significantly, and she said, I would rather wait for some time. So remember, the ultimate goal of all such kind of cases is visual rehabilitation. So your point A is keratoconus, and point B has to be final best corrected vision, whatever you can achieve. You have to find out a way how you go from point A to point B. So cross-linking only does stabilization, and we must on day one have plan for the visual rehabilitation, whatever way. Look at the central cone like this thing, and what we discussed earlier about intracorneal ring implants. Intracorneal ring implants works wonderfully well. But it is not a magic wand where we can predict that the visual outcome will be 100%. However, if I have to choose intracorneal ring implant only in one indication, that would surely be post-LASIK ectasia. The reason behind that, the LASIK has actually taken care of the flattening part in the other area, and the ectatic area is only in the limited region. So with the ring, if you flatten that area, the visual rehabilitation surely follows. So as you can see from here, as soon as we put a single ring inferiorly, the cornea becomes as if we have done LASIK, and that's how it is. Now, in such cases, if I put a contact lens, well, I'm negating the effect of LASIK. So the myopia exposes. If I do DALK, well, I'm negating the effect of LASIK. The myopia comes back. So here, if I have to do something, only one thing, well, that would be my intracorneal ring implants. Intracorneal ring implants work in many cases, but as I said, that to titrate the visual outcome can be sometimes difficult. So we have to combine with something else. Now, something else, when we say, one of them Ritika showed was phakic intraocular lens implantation. Now, phakic intraocular lens implantation, whenever we do for keratoconus, we have to remember if the cone is centered, it works wonderfully well. Otherwise, with phakic IOL, you are just treating lower order aberrations, sphere and cylinder. So after treating sphere and cylinder, you're actually going to expose the higher order ablation or higher order aberrations like comma, and patient can have significant ghosting. So cases where we can have a cone which is decentered, but we can still make it relatively centered, can be very well treated with intracorneal ring implants first. So you take care of such kind of regularization of the cone relatively with your intracorneal ring implant. And for the visual rehabilitation, well, your phakic IOL can be one of the treatment. There are certain challenges in phakic IOL with keratoconus where sometimes we may not have very good visual outcome because they are not very well centered cone. There, as I said, we can use rings or we can use topo-guided treatment and take care of the regularization of the cone, and then visual rehabilitation later on can be done with phakic IOL. If a patient has subjective and objective refraction very different, then be aware that these are not the best cases to do phakic IOL, and we have to wait for cross-linking effect to optimize after phakic IOL and then only do. Sometimes the person may have keratoconus along with the cataract. Typically, all the allergic patient with the long-term steroid can have cataract. In these cases, you may actually, based on the cone, you may be able to do a customized toric IOL and ultimately can achieve significantly great visual outcome. As you can see from here, the patient could be visually rehabilitated. But if we do not use such high cylindrical power, customized cylindrical power, well, it's not going to be great visual outcome. Finally, we have a case where we have moderate to severe keratoconus. I would rather say moderate keratoconus, as Shreyas was showing us. Now, such kind of cases, whether you're dealing with central cone or decentral cone, if my corneal thickness is decent enough, I would want to do a visual rehabilitation using a topo-guided PRK. Now, as you can see from here, the first is post-op picture, the second, the middle one is pre-op picture. And with the topo-guided, we can flatten the cone and we can steepen the superior part. So with this thing, we can actually achieve a beautiful picture like this thing. But remember, when you have a cone which is little decenter like this thing, your spherical equivalent can change. So please be aware to make sure that visual rehabilitation next follows, which can be even your normal toric lenses or even phakic intraocular lenses. The customization can also be done, as Shreyas was showing, using wavefront guided PRK. And if you're able to get a good wavefront images, well, it can actually work very well. And you can get significant regularized cornea and significantly reduce higher order aberration in such cases. So finally, to conclude, the treatment of keratoconus includes multiple steps, and surgeons as well as patients must be aware of this thing. We must have our plan where we want to reach at the end and find out a way to reach there. Thank you very much.